I'm entirely convinced this is a good idea, but we'll soon find out. It's just drizzle at the moment, good old English drizzle. Get you soaked right through. Americans, that's an English joke, don't worry about it. And I'm going to make my way to Gradbach mill, and if it's kind of eased off by then, I'll definitely carry on. If not, when I reach the mill, if I think it's not going to ease up, then I'll just turn back. But yeah, it's a lovely morning. Lots of birds singing. You can see the lush greenery just filling out these English country roads. That's nice. Lots of livestock out, a few horses, cows doing their thing. And what's the point of today's vlog? Well, it's strange that I have to have a point for these vlogs. I've tried to steer away from needing a point, but they're just not going to do well on YouTube if I don't. So today, I thought I was having a bit of rant about clickbait titles again. You know, what these really good photographers have to do to get their videos noticed. And it annoys me, it just does. But I get they have to do it. Don't get me wrong, I'm not bitching at them so much as the fact that they have to take part in this pantomime of clickbait titles. But one of the ones I've seen recently is the lenses you have to have for landscape photography, and you cannot do landscape photography without these lenses, and the top 2 lenses for landscape photography. I mean, come on, it's all subjective, isn't it? But what I'm going to do today is tell you the lenses that I currently use. So that's dead factual. I can give you good reasons why I use them, and most of them are to do with the fact that they're the ones I own. And give you the pros and cons. So that's what we're going to do. We're going to talk about my lenses. Sorry, cows. Well, this rain hasn't let up. I've got to the trees, which of course is going to ease off the downpour. It's not heavy, but it is persistent. There's a bit of a thing going on, so I've got a suspicion this area is going to be quite busy soon. There is a scout hall up that way, so it looks like there's lots of young scouts doing their thing, doing their adventuring. Loads of places are marked out, so I guess it's going to be pretty busy quite soon here, which of course is great. Glad people are doing it, but annoying because I'm here and I deserve to have it all to myself. So what are we going to do? I think what I'll do, the sky is grey, pudding factor 5, absolutely shocking. So I've got drizzle, pudding factor 5 cloud. I am wearing no waterproof, so I have no protection, although for the camera, but it is waterproofed, well, water sealed, weather sealed. So I don't really know what to do. I think, I'll tell you what I've not done in the past. I've not gone along the trail that goes along the River Dane, and that means I bypass walking up towards Lud's Church, which I don't need to do today. And I think I'll probably walk along there, and then and as I do that, we'll talk about the lenses. What I use right now for all of my photography, of course, because they're the lenses I've got and that's what I do, but more specifically how they work for my landscape stuff. Now, just by the River Dane now, quite lovely. It's got a good flow to it. Unfortunately, there's no great water features along here, not that I'm aware of. I don't think I'm going to be surprised. But yeah, I'm going to start that walk. This little area I'm in actually has produced some nice results in the autumn, but at the moment it's just a massive green. I am struggling, you know, to beat the green here. Maybe I'll see something, maybe a bit more intimate, a bit closer. But yeah, I'm going to press on. There's some great industry history around here. Almost all to do with mining, of course, but different types of mining and things that you might not anticipate, like ochre. This is a place where they used to dig up in some way or somehow capture ochre. I think it came up with the water. I'll look into that, but quite interesting. But also there's a folklore tale, again, don't know if I've mentioned it before on one of my vlogs, but about a cannibal family, in fact, the Gradbach cannibal. So I'm hoping to do something a little bit different about that. with a friend of mine, Ash, and Ash has a YouTube channel where he walks around and has coffee basically, and make it sound like he does nothing, but he does a lot more exercise than I do. So but he's called Brews with Views. If you want to check that out, it's a new channel and he's just building it up. But yeah, I'll give you a bit of a story now. I'm just looking, got Danebridge. I can walk to Danebridge that way, and I imagine this doesn't say anything, but I guess that goes up to the ridge at the top where the road is and onto Swithamley is. So I'm going to go down here. I am looking for compositions, but I'm also kind of waiting for the drizzle to ease off a little bit so I can get the camera out and sort of start working through these lenses. The whole point of this little bit is the lenses you use and why. Honestly, it's mostly to do with money. Sad but true. Right, let's crack on. Okay, I found this tree which is quite nice, and I'm going to use this to show off the 50mm prime and why I would use it. So let's just give you a quick look around it. It's beautifully shaped, it's covered in moss, absolutely adorable. It's got a few leaves at the back, I think, which gives it some body. It's not just a skeletal tree. Then there's the huge drop, which isn't really relevant, but there's the distance to the back area there. That's good, that's going to work, that's going to help with bokeh. So there's a few other interesting things around here as well. So this is a nice little spot to sort of try and set up. I do have an issue though. There's a tree with loads of small fine branches coming down from it. Just show you this. See this? Okay, now fortunately for me, this is in grasping difference. So I'm thinking, if I think it presents a problem to the composition, spoiler alert, it does, I'm going to set the camera on a timer. So this is where you want your tripod, you see. Set the camera on a tripod, get it all set up, put the timer on, and then I'm going to literally pull this branch down out the way to get the shot. In theory, that should work, and no trees are harmed in the making of this video. Now, let's get over to the camera and talk about the lens. So this 50mm prime, if there was a lens I would choose not to bring with me if I was limited to one lens, I wouldn't bring this one. That fixed focal range, it will be such a hindrance. Much better, I would suggest, to bring a telephoto lens that just gives you a broader range of focal length. And we'll talk about that in a second. But the reason I do like bringing this when I can is because it's so small. You know, even with the cap on, and this has got an adapter too to fit onto the R5 because this is an EF mount. It's that big, and I can just shove it in my pocket and it doesn't get damaged. It's super. But the most important thing for me is its aperture. This is the best aperture I've got. It's the only one that's good that I could afford. 1.4. And that means it's great for all kinds of lighting situations. It's quite dim here at the moment. It's quite grim, as you can imagine, with the pudding factor and the trees over it. So to be able to go down to 1.4 and just open up for the light is good. But also, it means I get fantastic depth of field. Really, really good, should I want it. Now I do, so we're looking at this tree with this 50mm lens. Part of the problem of it, again, so this is its prime, landscape mode, I can't get it all in, but that's okay, I decided, because I looked at it in portrait mode and I thought it was the better shot. It kind of encloses the shape of the tree, and then there's space around it which will kind of blur a little bit, and that'll be the framing. That's the plan. I'm taking the shot, so it may not work. So I'm going to, now of course I've told you about the, oh, it's starting to rain a bit heavier again, I'm going to have to get a wiggle on. I told you about the tree, so I'm going to set a timer up and I'm going to move this out the way because it does cause me problems. But yeah, the rain's coming down now, so I'm going to have to move fast, sorry. I really like photographing fern at the moment. Don't know why, it's just one of those things, it gets you. You'll find something every season of the year and you think, well, I really want to shoot that. Probably mushrooms in autumn, I know that's going to be me. But at the moment, I'm liking shooting fern, mossy trees, that kind of thing. I don't want the whole tree in, I'm just happy with the base, and this is a great example of that. And this is where the 50mm is perfect again, because of that depth of field. It's going to make the subject, and just everything else is just a nice blurry mess behind it and around it. So just show you what I mean. There you go. This is, you know, you probably just walk straight past it, but look at that lovely, look at the green tones, the difference in the shades there, and then against the tree. Yeah, it comes up really well. Got this, even the tree has got great colour in it, just fantastic. Whoa. And this bit, that's really, that's all I'm interested in. Let's pull back a bit so you can see. I don't want this in, that spoils it. So, you know, we're looking at just there. I'm just looking at this angle actually, and I could maybe get that in. I mean, I'm not really after, this is the focal point, this is where the interest is, but maybe that just a bit blurred out. So that I'll maybe take another shot actually. So there you go, just doing that has made me see that perhaps there's another shot there, and I'll put both up. Let me know what you think. Okay, so I just said there's maybe another shot here, and we get the 50mm in and have a look, and that's when I realised that on the video it looked fine, and that's because this video is a wide angle. The 50mm doesn't, and I can't go any further back because there's forest behind me, so the focal length won't work. For the shot that I saw, I'm too close. So this is where moving on to my workhorse lens comes into play, and then I'll talk about the sort of wider angle one last of all. So my workhorse lens is the 24-105. I've broken 2 of them, and I've always bought them again because I use it so much. So if 50mm isn't going to do it, I'm absolutely certain that 24mm will, but I don't really want to go down to the extreme end. Probably 30-35 is going to be fine, but we'll see when I change the lens. But there you go, that's the limitation of a prime. If you're in an area that's basically physically locked off, you can't go any further back, maybe you can't go forward, can't get to the side, you're going to struggle to get all of your composition in unless it just fits in that 50mm frame. So yeah, I'm gonna get 24-105. So by putting the 24-105 on, it's really opened up the real estate I've got to play with. I can get a little bit closer to the subject if I wish, and I'm still not going to lose the things either side. Drawbacks of this is this is a sort of variable aperture from about, I think this one goes down to f4 at the best. Yeah, f4 at best, which f4 is fine, by the way. f4 is absolutely fine. So given that I can only go down to f4, I've got to be wary of the light, but it's absolutely fine. It's a still day, it's a bit grim, but you know, f4 is fine, I think, for this. And more importantly, I can get my whole composition into the frame. I'm gonna drop down a little bit and give it a whirl, and I'm not going to try and remove the branches that are hanging down, because that really is background, that bit, so I don't really care too much about that. It's still really, this is my focal point. So that said, 24-105 is now going to do the job, and we'll talk more about this one after I've taken this shot. I think that was a good example of where just using a prime can be a problem, although it gives you, you know, sharpness and great light, etc., and affordability. I think you do want to get additional focal length, and I would say, certainly for me, that if I had a choice, I would always go for some sort of telephoto lens. I think you need it to give you more options when you reach a composition. So 24-105, why is that the workhorse? Well, I very rarely find myself using my other lens, which is the 15-30, because, well, I don't use it for wide shots. I think 24 for me is pretty much fine. If I do need that extra width, I'll pano it. But yeah, 24-105. It really does give me a lot of space to play in the kind of places I shoot, in woodlands like this, where I either want to go a little bit closer or I want to do. So I think once you go wide in woodland, once you've gone past your sort of central area, it's all the same. So you don't really need it. Sometimes it can work. You know, I'm one of those guys who says never say never. But yeah, so 24-105, absolute workhorse for me. And if I were to be told, well, you can only take one lens with your Ed, that would be it. Now, would I like a better aperture on it? Yes, absolutely. And I think that's the thing really, all these lenses that I've got, of which, you know, there's 3 I normally take with me, they're just the things I could afford. Would I like better? Yes. Do I have a fear of missing out? No. These absolutely do for me. I've not looked at other lenses for a long time. This Trinity I've got is fine. So we've done 50mm, done 24-105. We'll look at why, in fact, I've got 15 to 30 in my bag and how often I use it. Now, I'm struggling at the moment to find a reason to use the 30mm, the 15 to 30mm. And I do think that's because it's such a specific range. It's good for when I want to get really close to something but still keep the breadth of perhaps a large subject. And I was trying to think where I'd use it. So maybe I'd use it with if I was doing cars, you know, and I want to get up to the wheel arch and still get the rest of the shot in, and maybe some nice depth of field in the background. I often use it in portrait mode to capture trees that have got a very wide canopy, which I'm not going to do today because the forest is too close. Everything kind of reaches into the next thing. So there you go. I mean, I think that's a good example that not every lens is going to be useful on any given day. It's just nice to have the option. I'll put the 24-105 on now, and I'll probably stick with it. So there is another lens in my bag, and I was thinking about this on the way in, and maybe I haven't quite told the true story. So I've got the 70-200 f4 Canon lens, EF mount, and if I was going to swap out one of these lenses, and we're going to assume I aren't bringing the 50mm, okay, because it's fixed, I'd drop the 15 to 30, I would, because just for what I do, I think the 24-105 does the bulk of the work. So that 70-200 just gives me that extra reach. It's pretty sharp as well, but that's just the nature of that particular lens. So there you go. I think, you know, if I was bringing 2 lenses with me, I wouldn't go down to the wider range. 24 is fine. I'd actually go more towards the 200. Now, the next thing I'll talk about is lenses that I would like to have, and to be honest, it's the lenses I've already got but with a better aperture, and then one other, because I've seen the results that Craig Yates Photography has got with his, and I am envious. He's got a 100 to 400. Now I was given loan of Massive Bastard MB, which is the 150 to 600mm, which I use for fun really. And if I was doing wildlife, I would take it out with me. It's not really my thing. But when I've used that and gone down to the 400mm, I've always thought, ooh, that's quite nice. That opens up a few interesting shots that the 200 can't quite get to. But I'm not desperate for it, not desperate for that lens. I think, yeah. So let's turn this into a sort of final in the competition, if you will, of my lenses. So I'm not talking about all lenses. You may use I might want 10mm, I don't know, and that's fine. That's the right one for you. But for me, and with the lenses I've got, my 24-105 is going to be the winner, just because in my environment it hits all the sweet spots. And yes, every now and then I might wish I got something else for a particular composition, but I'm going to hit the mark quite a lot with the 24-105. So there you go. I hope that's useful information. It's one of those things. I think if you're moving from using your smartphone, or perhaps just, you know, a point and click, and you want to go to lenses that you're going to swap out, you know, perhaps move to the, I don't want to say the more professional side of things, but the, you know, just the beyond snapping a shot, and you want to take a bit more time with it and get to learn the mechanics of this kind of photography. The first thing you're going to want to think about once you've picked your camera, of course, which is a whole other ball game, is the lens ecosystem you're going to use and where to start. You know, your camera might come with a kit lens, you know, normally like a, what is it, 30 to 55 normally, nice little range. And then you're going to want to dive in and buy that first lens. Of course, if you're already doing this, you're already doing landscapes and you've already got your camera and you're just thinking, oh, you know what, I've got a few £100 spare, I'm going to drop it on a lens, let's go see what Fat Boy uses to get his shots. Now you know the limits, you know that I have to work to price. All my lenses are secondhand, every one of them. So, and I recommend that. There's some very, very respectable secondhand vendors out there. One, obviously MPB is the one probably most people know, but try CEX as well. They're the computer exchange people. I don't even think they do computers now, but they do consoles. Maybe it's console exchange. But they have a range, not as big as MPB, and they have a very, very good guarantee system in place, warranty system. I've never had any issues with lenses that I bought if I've had problems. They've always accepted them, you know, as long as it's their fault, not mine. So CEX, take a look. They're normally a bit cheaper as well. They just don't have a great range. They don't get as many in. And they're very exacting though on their quality control, I find, as are MPB. I'm not sponsored by either of them. Probably should be. But I'm all about, I like people having gear, but I don't like people spending too much money. It's the Stokey in me, that is. Right, I'm going to have to, it's getting a bit muddy head, so I'm going to stop chopsing and get a stride on through this mud. I've spotted a lovely tree and I think in a reasonable composition. Reason I like it is its shape, and the fact that it's actually quite dark around it is working for me. I have got a couple of issues with it, but it might be, this might be a good example of using that 70 to 200 that I carry with me to reach in to a spot. I mean, I think, honestly, I think 24-105 would probably do it, but the 70-200 would do it sharper if it works. I'll show you the tree, show you the problems. So the tree's here, okay, beautiful, beautiful dark branches, and that's what I like about it. So you've got this dark bit here, it's quite dark here. There is a branch with leaves there, that's a problem, and that might mean I go up here and pull that back and do the timer thing again. There's a, quite close to me, there's a tree here that's light, that kills it stone dead, so I have got to come around or move closer. It just gets a bit awkward. You can see this is not the best to be standing on. So I'm going to set up, see what I can do, and see if we can capture this moody shot. Actually, I've just noticed, that might be a problem, there is a dead tree branch just at the side of it as well. Actually, it's part of the tree. Maybe that won't work. I'll give it a go. So I used the 70-200 there to reach in and grab something that would normally be quite either difficult or impossible. And that's what the 400 would give me, that little bit extra as well. So what did I shoot that at? I shot it at 100mm to get both the shots you've seen, hopefully. This bit's worked. I did one landscape, one portrait. I think the portrait's probably the one I like the best. And I'm going to press on. I don't think I've got anything else to tell you about lenses other than you know, at the end of the day, it's always going to vary. It's always going to depend on what you're doing. Wildlife is different from landscape. If you're doing sports, you know, different again. Macro photography requires another, well, if you're getting into it seriously, you go on another set of lenses. I do macro photography with my 50mm, but it's not as good, I'm sure, as having one of those lovely 100mm macro lenses. And I'd love to try it, so maybe I'll have to borrow a lens or something. So there is no right lens for landscape photography. There are lenses that you can certainly say are good for landscape photography, and you'll certainly see those focal lengths used a great deal, but it doesn't mean it's the right one for you or on any given day. And the more variation you've got available to you at the time, then the better it's going to be. It's just that. There is no two lenses that are must-haves. It's bollocks. Well, it's getting busy here now. There's a race on, so I saw little flags all the way along the trail, and apparently it's for people who are running 50k. Christ almighty, I've just walked probably about 10 and I'm done for. And they're going to run 50k. Run wankers, man. Anyway, so I'm going to call it here as I make my way through a few inches of mud. I've had a lovely morning. Yeah, the photography is so-so. But I've enjoyed sort of talking about my lenses. I hope you've found something interesting in that. I don't know. Probably if you're a pro photographer, not so much, but then you probably wouldn't be watching me anyway. And yeah, regardless of the photography, the walk is always worth it. So I'm going to say goodbye, get back to the beast, have my sandwiches, and I'll see you for the next one. Just a quick thing, I've just pulled in and parked up there. When I meet people here, I tell them a few of the little stories about Gradbach in the area, and one of them is that the brook turns a funny colour, and the reason is for that there's ochre, okay, it's used in dyeing, and I would say that it comes out from a particular source, I think, where they mined it. So when the water's quite heavy, it will start coming down into the brook, and here it is. This is the actual source of the ochre. So of course the question is there a shot here? Now I've got the wrong lens on for this, because I literally just snatched the camera out of the car when I saw it and thought I'll just run down and take the shot. But I think the fact that you've got this colour on this side and then only half the brook to here is coloured or discoloured might just work as a shot. So it's all handheld. I'm using the 7200. This is a little bonus shot, okay? It's a bonus shot, and if it works, I'll put it up now. If it doesn't, you'll never see this clip.